I never thought I'd be the guy writing something like this, but here we are. My name's Mike, and I've been with my wife, Lisa, for about 7 years now. We met pretty young, fell hard, and everything seemed perfect, at least on the surface. We had the usual ups and downs, but I always thought we were solid. I mean, she was my girl, my best friend, the person I wanted to spend my life with. We got engaged last year. I was planning to propose around our anniversary, actually. Things were good, or so I thought. She had been acting a little weird lately, more irritable than usual, snapping at me over silly stuff, and she'd started shutting me out more often. I figured stress, work, whatever. I'd noticed her sneaking around her phone more, hiding things, but I didn't want to jump to conclusions. Maybe she was planning something special. I mean, I was too. Then came the signs that something was off. She started canceling plans last minute, claiming she was too busy or just exhausted. But I caught her lying once when I saw her texting late at night. She quickly, and I mean quickly, shut her phone before I could see what she was doing. That was strange. She'd always been open before. Now she was suddenly secretive, and I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. But the biggest jolt came when I noticed her belly starting to look a little rounder, and she was hiding it under baggy sweaters. I didn't say anything then. I thought maybe she was just gaining a bit of weight, or maybe it was the stress catching up with her. Then she started avoiding me altogether. I'd come home from work and she'd be glued to her laptop or phone, whispering on calls, hanging out with our friends but keeping her distance from me. It was like she was trying to send me some kind of message without actually saying it. I was hurt, confused, and honestly a little pissed off because I felt like I was being shut out of my own life. But I wanted to believe she was just stressed or overwhelmed. I told myself, give her time, she'll come around. One night, I decided to surprise her with a dinner and a quiet evening. I got her favorite takeout, set up candles, and waited for her to come home. She did, but her reaction was cold. She barely looked at me, sat on the other side of the table, and barely ate. When I asked how her day was, she just shrugged, said she was fine, but her face told a different story. Then she excused herself early, saying she wasn't feeling well. I stayed up for a while, staring at her side of the bed, feeling more distant than ever. Something was definitely wrong, but I didn't want to believe it yet. A few days later, I found my suspicions confirmed, by accident, of course. I was going through her emails because I noticed she was acting even more secretive than usual. She'd been deleting messages, hiding receipts, and I thought, what the hell is she covering up now? Then I saw a chain of messages with this guy, Jake. They weren't just friends, they were talking about meeting up, making plans, and the tone of the messages wasn't exactly friendly. It was flirtatious, suggestive even. And to make it worse, she'd recently canceled a trip with me for what she called a work thing, but her location later checked out as her being at a hotel with Jake. That was it, I saw enough. This wasn't just an innocent friendship. It was something way more twisted. I was in shock. My mind was spinning. I had to sit down because I felt like I was going to faint. My wife, the woman I trusted with everything, had been screwing around behind my back and got herself pregnant by some guy I never even suspected. And she lied to me about everything, her pregnancy, her work trips, her feelings. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and furious all at once. The worst part, I still loved her, or at least I thought I did. But how could I stay with someone who had lied so blatantly, who'd betrayed our vows? I knew I had to confront her, but I wasn't sure how I was going to handle what came next. The day I confronted her, I knew I had to be calm, but inside I was boiling. I waited until she came home from work, trying to steady my nerves. She looked tired, irritable, like she was already annoyed I was even there. I grabbed her by the arm and told her I needed to talk. She rolled her eyes and gave me that bitchy smirk, like she was already annoyed with me even before I started. Lisa, I said, my voice low but firm. I know about Jake, I saw the messages. The one where you're talking about meeting up, the hotel, the whole damn thing. You lied to me. You lied about being at work, about your trips. How long has this been going on? She blinked, then scoffed. Oh, come on, Mike, you're overreacting. It's nothing serious, just some stupid flirtation. It's not like I cheated on you, God. You're so dramatic. My blood started to boil. Not serious. You're pregnant, Lisa. You're pregnant, and you're telling me that's just some stupid flirtation. How stupid do you think I am? She smirked again, crossing her arms. Look, I didn't mean for any of this to happen. I don't know, things got complicated. Jake is just a guy I got close to, but it's not like I planned it. You're overreacting anyway. I'm pregnant, yeah, but I swear I love you. I didn't mean for any of this to go as far as it did. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. That line, I swear I love, hollow. I looked at her, her eyes darting around, her face a mask of annoyance and defiance. Like she was annoyed at me for catching her, annoyed that I was making a scene. That's when I realized she wasn't even sorry, she just didn't care about how I felt. She was more pissed that I found out, more pissed that her secret was out in the open. I couldn't believe I was even standing there, listening to her bullshit. I told her she needed to tell me everything. How long they'd been doing this, how far along she was, everything. She hesitated, then finally admitted that she'd been seeing Jake for about 3 months. She said she didn't mean for any of it, that she was just confused, that she didn't want to hurt me. Yeah, right. Like that makes it okay. I felt sick. I didn't want to cry, but I was so furious and hurt I couldn't help it. The betrayal cut so deep it was like a knife in my chest. I looked into her eyes and saw the woman I loved, the woman I thought I knew, was nothing but a liar and a cheat. I wanted to scream, I wanted to break something, but I just stood there, stunned. She kept trying to justify herself, saying she was stressed, that Jake was just a distraction, that she didn't want to lose everything we had. That's when I knew I couldn't stay with her. Not after this. Not after she'd done this to me. She was so bitchy about it, like she didn't give a damn how much she was hurting me. It was all about her, her pregnancy, her feelings, her excuses. That's what made it so much worse. She didn't even seem sorry. When I finally told her I needed space, she rolled her eyes and told me I was overreacting again, that I was making a big deal out of nothing, that she loved me but was just confused. I swear to God, that moment I almost lost it. I told her I was done, that I couldn't be with someone who lied, cheated, and dismissed my feelings like they meant nothing. She just shrugged and went to bed, acting like she hadn't just shattered my entire world. That night I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, trying to process everything. It's crazy how someone you trust can turn into a stranger overnight. I kept thinking about the future I'd planned, our life together, the home we wanted, the family. And then I thought about her with Jake, the betrayal, the stupid lies. I honestly didn't know how I was going to get through this. I felt angry, devastated, and so damn betrayed I didn't even know who I was anymore. But one thing was clear, I wasn't going to stay silent. Something had to change. The next few days were a blur. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her with Jake, those messages, her sneaky little lies. I kept telling myself I should be angry, that I should cut her out of my life, but that hurt deep down was something I hadn't felt before. It cut so deep I wondered if I'd ever feel whole again. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut, then kicked while I was down. I kept asking myself how I didn't see it coming, how I didn't notice the signs. But honestly, I'd never have guessed the woman I married was capable of something so cruel. I finally decided I had to talk to her again, this time with a clear head. I needed answers, but I also needed to stand my ground. When she saw me come into the room, she rolled her eyes like I was bothering her. I was done playing nice. I told her flat out that I wanted her to tell me everything. No more lies, no more bullshit. I wanted the full truth. She hesitated again, like she'd rather be anywhere else, then finally admitted that she'd been with Jake at our favorite getaway spot, this secluded cabin we'd gone to a few times. She said they'd done sex, a lot of it, and that she'd gotten pregnant that weekend. That was the moment I realized just how far she'd gone. That weekend was supposed to be ours. She'd even lied about going with me. Instead, she was with her lover in a place that was supposed to be our sanctuary. I felt so betrayed, so hurt that I almost couldn't breathe. My mind was racing, trying to process it all. How could she do this? How could she turn something so special into a lie? And what the hell did I do to deserve this? She sat there, trying to brush it off like it was no big deal, like she was proud of her adventure. She told me she didn't regret it, that Jake was better for her than I ever was, that she felt alive with him. It was like she was bragging about her betrayal. I could see the smirk on her face as she kept talking, acting like she was the victim here. That's when I realized she was a bitch, completely self-absorbed, manipulative, and selfish. She didn't care about the damage she'd done. She only cared about her own feelings. Honestly, I felt numb. I couldn't believe this was real. My wife, the woman I loved, was out there fucking someone else, getting pregnant and lying to my face. I wanted to scream, I wanted to punch her, but all I could do was sit there and listen to her talk about her rights, her freedom, like I was supposed to accept this mess. I asked her what she was planning to do now, and she said she was going to keep the baby, that she wanted to stay strong, and that she didn't care what I thought. That kind of indifference crushed me even more. I felt like I was drowning. My head was spinning, my heart pounding so hard I thought I might pass out. I couldn't believe I'd gone from planning a proposal to this, feeling like I'd been hit by a freight train. The woman I thought I knew, the woman I wanted to spend my life with, was gone. Instead, I was left with a stranger, someone who lied, cheated, and didn't even care about my feelings. The betrayal was so raw, so real, I didn't know how I was going to get through it. But I knew one thing: I had to decide what was next. I couldn't keep pretending everything was fine. I couldn't keep loving someone who had turned into this manipulative, selfish person. I told her I needed time to think, that I couldn't do this anymore. She just shrugged like she didn't care. That moment, I knew I had to do something drastic. I couldn't keep living in this nightmare. The only thing I was certain of now was that I had to protect myself and figure out how to move forward. The pain was too much to ignore, and I couldn't let her keep tearing me apart. After that confrontation, I felt like I was walking around in a fog. Everything was a blur: her, the house, the life I thought I had. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. The betrayal kept replaying in my mind like a bad movie I couldn't shut off. I started to question everything: my judgment, her love, our entire relationship. How could I have been so blind? How did I miss all the signs? The more I thought about it, the more I realized I'd ignored the little things: her sneaky texts, her late nights, her cold attitude. I kept telling myself I should have seen it coming, but honestly, I was just too damn blind, too trusting. One night, I decided I had to do something about it. I couldn't let her manipulate me any longer. I wanted to find out exactly how deep her lies went, so I started digging more. I went through her phone, something I never thought I'd do, but I had to know the full story. I found more messages, private chats with Jake, her calling him her escape, her kind of crazy, and saying she didn't feel alive with me anymore. The words hit me like a punch in the gut. She was planning to leave, to run away with him, and she was using her pregnancy as a shield. She kept insisting that I was supposed to be the good guy, that I was supposed to be understanding and supportive because she was going through a lot. It wasn't just about the cheating anymore. It was the complete disregard for everything we had built. I felt rage boiling inside me. I couldn't stand the thought of her using her pregnancy as some kind of shield, as if I owed her anything after what she did. I decided it was time to face her again, to lay everything out on the table. I told her I knew about her plans to leave, that I knew she was using her pregnancy to manipulate me into accepting her bullshit. She got defensive, of course, said I was overreacting, that I was crazy for thinking she'd actually leave. She called me insecure, jealous, and said I was just scared of losing the only thing that matters: her baby, her new life with Jake. That was the moment I realized just how cold and selfish she'd become. She wasn't even trying to deny it anymore. Instead, she doubled down, acting like I was the one at fault for feeling betrayed. For the first time, I saw her for what she really was: a bitch who didn't care about me, only about herself and her new plans. I was furious. I told her she needed to get her shit together, that I wasn't going to sit around and watch her ruin our life. I told her I was done playing her game, that I was leaving. Her reaction: she just laughed, told me I was pathetic, and told me I'd regret walking away. That's when I realized she's always been that way: bitchy, manipulative, with no regard for anyone but herself. It was like I'd been married to a stranger all along. That night, I packed a bag and left. I couldn't stay there anymore, not with her sneering at me, acting like I was the one in the wrong. I stayed with a friend for a few days, trying to get my head straight. I felt nothing but pain and anger, but I also felt a strange sense of relief. For the first time, I wasn't under her spell. I could breathe again, I could think clearly. And through all of this, I kept asking myself, what's next? Do I try to fix this? Do I fight for her? Or do I just walk away and start over? Honestly, I didn't know. But I knew that staying in that toxic mess was only making everything worse. I had to take control of my life again, even if it hurt like hell. Over the following weeks, I tried to piece my life back together. Honestly, it was one of the hardest times I've ever gone through. Every morning I woke up with this gnawing emptiness, this feeling that I'd lost everything I cared about. I couldn't shake the image of her with Jake at that stupid getaway spot, her smiling like she was proud of her little secret. I kept asking myself how I let it get this far, how I didn't see the signs, how I didn't protect myself better. I realized I had to make some decisions. Part of me still loved her, or at least wanted to believe there was some part of her that was still the woman I married. But I also knew I couldn't stay in this situation. I wasn't going to be someone's fool, someone's second choice, or a pawn in her twisted game. So I sat down one night, wrote everything out, my feelings, what she did, what I wanted to do, and I came to a conclusion. I was going to file for divorce. I couldn't stay married to someone who lied and cheated so blatantly. I deserved better. My dignity deserved respect. I also decided I wasn't going to be a part of her new life with Jake and the baby. That's when I started thinking about how to handle the legal side of things, custody, support, the whole 9 yards. I wanted to be fair but firm. I wasn't going to let her use her pregnancy as a weapon or an excuse to manipulate me. My main goal was to protect my peace and move on as cleanly as possible. The truth is, I never pictured myself as the type to get revenge. But honestly, I was so fed up with her bullshit that I knew I needed to do something to assert my boundaries. Not in a violent way, but enough to make her realize I wasn't going to be played anymore. I started gathering evidence, screenshots of messages, receipts, anything that proved her betrayal. I wasn't doing this to hurt her. I was doing it so she couldn't lie her way out again. I wanted to have the upper hand, to make sure she knew I wasn't going to be a pushover. One of the most surprising things was how her attitude shifted once she found out I was serious about leaving. She called me a lot, begged me to come back, said she was sorry, that she didn't mean to hurt me. But I could see through her tears and fake tears, she didn't care. It was all about saving her own ass. She kept saying she fell in love with Jake, that she was done with me, and that I should just accept her decision because she's pregnant after all. That made me sick. The way she threw her pregnancy around like a shield was vile. I knew I couldn't fix this, not really. The trust was shattered beyond repair. But I could take control of the situation, stand my ground, and make sure I was protected. I filed for divorce, got the legal process rolling, and made it clear I was done trying to be the nice guy. I told her I wanted nothing to do with her or that baby until she sorted herself out. I had to protect myself, my heart, my sanity, my future. She threw a fit, of course, calling me all sorts of names, cold, selfish, immature, like she was the victim. But I didn't care anymore. I knew I was doing the right thing, even if it hurt like hell. Looking back, I realized this whole nightmare has taught me a few things. Trust is fragile, and I'll never take it for granted again. People can hide their true selves behind a pretty face or a false smile. And sometimes, the best thing you can do is walk away, even if it's the hardest decision you've ever made. Because staying would only mean more pain, more lies, and more betrayal. I don't know what the future holds, but I do know I'll be stronger for having gone through it. And I hope anyone reading this can learn something. Too, trust yourself, protect your peace, and don't be afraid to walk away when someone shows you they're not worth it. Now, looking back on everything, I realized the biggest lesson was how much I underestimated the damage betrayal can do, not just to your relationship, but to your sense of self. I stayed quiet for too long, convinced that love alone could fix everything. But love doesn't mean blindly accepting lies, cheating, and disrespect. It took losing her, losing the future I thought we had, to finally see the truth clearly. I've since started rebuilding my life piece by piece. It's not easy, and sometimes the pain still sneaks in when I least expect it. But I've learned to trust my instincts, never ignore the little red flags, never make excuses for someone's selfishness, and always protect my own boundaries. Because at the end of the day, if someone is willing to betray you so completely, they're not worth holding on to. That whole experience changed me. I'm more cautious now, but I'm also more aware of what I deserve. I don't regret what I did, standing my ground, protecting myself, moving on. Because no matter how much it hurts, the worst thing you can do is stay stuck in a toxic situation just because it's familiar. So here's my advice to anyone going through something similar. Trust your gut. When things don't feel right, don't ignore it. Confront the truth, even if it's painful, because living in denial or pretending everything's okay will only make things worse in the long run. And most importantly, don't be afraid to walk away. You owe it to yourself to find happiness, even if it means starting over alone. That's what I've learned from all of this. It's a brutal lesson, but it's one I'll carry with me forever. Life's too short to waste on people who don't value or respect you. I hope others can see their worth sooner than I did. Because in the end, the only person you truly have to count on is yourself.